Hi guys, Gaz here with a quick video for UK Angling on a session I had recently on Park Farm 2 on the Great Linford Lakes Complex in Milton Keynes. Didn't quite go to plan, but there is a bit of fish action to show you, so let's get started. I arrived late on the first night, so I didn't put rods out. I got a good night's sleep, and then in the morning I just casted out and just started setting up the cameras when this happened. My rig had been positioned just in front of a heavy weed bed, and as I started playing the fish it just buried itself in that weed bed and went pretty solid. Luckily, because it's slightly later in the year, the weed isn't quite so tough, so what I was doing here was putting a fair amount of pressure on and then slowly edging backwards to help kind of pull the fish through the weed, and it wasn't long before it managed to come free. And once I got it in the margins, the fight really started to take place. It was diving for the weed beds to my left and the marginal reeds to my right, but fortunately after a few minutes of a bit of a stalemate, I finally managed to get it in the net. It wasn't the catfish I was hoping for, but it looked like a nice carp.
Have a little beast. This time, guys. This time, sir. This time, and he's in. Oh, nice fish that, mate. Carp on a squid.
How about that?
And a squiddly diddly.
So how about that for a start? Turned up last night, didn't fish overnight because I didn't turn up till gone 10 o'clock. But the first fish of the trip, a common, we think he's around about 18 pound. I'll double check the weight because I had the sling, didn't have it zeroed. But yeah, on the SK1 Plus catfish pop-ups and a chunk of squid on a big hook. So you can see even the carp really like those. Let's get this guy back, we'll see in a bit.
William boy, good man.
Cool. So now I'm back home, I thought I'd just quickly show you the rig that I caught that fish on. This is my go-to catfish rig. It's really versatile. You're able to use it for fishing pellets and also fishing dead baits and stuff like that as well. So I'll quickly show you how to tie it up and why I think it's a really effective rig. Alright, so all you need to be able to tie this hook is some braided mainline. I would suggest something like a Dyneema. It's got a nice tight weave to it. A braided hook link is always going to be better for you when playing catfish. It's very, very strong for its low diameter. If you get something, this is like 120 pound breaking strain. If you were to get a mono or a fluorocarbon this thick, this strong, it would be incredibly thick. This is still nice and thin. Still, it's relatively supple. It's got a bit of stiffness to it, but something along those lines is going to be ideal. You're going to need a baiting needle. I use a latchgate baiting needle for pellets, that's the main thing there. A pair of scissors and a hook. For a hook I tend to use a eagle wave pattern of hook. I like the way that they have that little bend in the top of the shank there. When you put a dead bait on, it just kind of stops it from moving around. It kind of just holds on, keeps it from going too kind of far, whereas a circle hook, it can kind of spin around a little bit, and I don't like that. So an eagle wave would be my preferred hook pattern. This is a size 4, I think it is, or size 2. Yeah, anything along those lines. This is perfect. You can use that for dead baits, and then you can use it for pellet fishing as well. So I'll show you how to tie the rig. This is a relatively simple rig to tie. It's got a couple of little tricks that make it very reliable as far as you know, being able to hook on pellets and dead baits. But I'll show you how that works. So first of all, you're going to want to get some of your hook link. Now you're going to need to think about how much you need. So I'm going to say actual hook length, I'm going to need maybe 12 to 15 inches. You want a nice long hook link when you're fishing for catfish. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an extra kind of 4 or 5 inches on to the length that I'm actually using. So go too long rather than too short if you can. That means you've got extra to play with. So I'm just going to just cut that off of here. It's quite thick and tough, so it can be a bit tricky sometimes. So you've got a nice long hook link. You'll be able to cut off any excess that you don't need, which is great. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to tie a big loop knot. You want a really, really big loop knot. So something that a pellet would easily fit through. So use a pellet to make sure you've definitely got something big enough. So make a big loop and then do it just an overhand loop knot, making sure to pull as much of the loop through the knot so you've got plenty to play with as far as this big loop, and I'll show you. You've got a nice big loop there. And then what you do is, as always, moisten that and then tighten that down as much as you can. You really want to be really pulling that down so there's no slippage or anything like that. And that's the main part of your rig there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take a latch gate baiting needle, pop on a couple of pellets, and then we're going to simply hook those onto the loop, same as you would with a normal hair rig. But what you're going to do is a little trick that I've picked up. Now when you use pellets especially, as they start to break down, because they're drilled, they also break down and their diameter on the inside gets larger. As you kind of fish throughout a session and you've left them in the water for a few hours, that means if you're using a normal kind of bait stop, what's going to happen is it's going to start rattling around in that hole and possibly come loose. So I've come up with a different way of attaching these, which seems to stop that from happening and make a much more secure way of attaching pellets to this rig. So what I'll do is I'll pull them all the way through the loop so they're on the main line before I put a hook on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply take this loop back through the baits again. So we'll go around the bait, shove my bait needle back through those two pellets from the loop end. Be a bit fiddly to get through them both, and then grab hold of that loop and pull it back through the bait. So you basically you've double threaded these on, and what that leaves you with, once you kind of jiggle them around a little bit to kind of get them to fit, is you're left with this loop here. And then what you can do with this loop is you can go over that top bait in between the two, get it right round, and then simply pull tight. Now what you've got is you've got two pellets that are nailed onto that rig and they're not going anywhere, and you don't have to worry about a hair stop, and as those degrade it will still be, you know, holding on to those as they get smaller and smaller until they eventually break down. It's definitely better than using a hair stop. A hair stop with pellets is always unreliable, and now all you need to do is you need to attach your hook. So now we've got those attached, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a simple knotless knot style. I'm going to do 7 turns up the shank, thereabouts. I tend to do 7, that's my lucky number, and then go back through the eye of the hook, like so. And there you have it, you've got your hook bait nicely attached with a hook on the end, and then you can literally just tie a loop on the end of the other end of this rig, and then attach it with a quick change swivel or whatever your preferred method. Now what I've actually done as well to show you how versatile this rig is, I've taken off the pellets, and now what we're left with is an eagle wave hook and a very long hair. You can't even see in shot there, it's very long. Now this in itself isn't ideal when you're fishing dead baits, but you can make it work to your advantage. For example, if you're fishing a nice roach dead bait or something like that and you've got it hooked on the hook there, if it's not frozen, if it's fresh, or as it's defrosting, it's going to start to go a bit soft. So what you can do once you've got it hooked on is you can take the rest of this hair and you can wrap it around the bait a few times and then poke it through and then attach it with the bait needle. That way what you've got is you've got a dead bait attached that as it starts to go soft is still going to be held on to the hook really nicely. It's not going anywhere. It just helps attach that dead bait, which makes this rig, you know, something you can have in your box ready to go, and you can switch between dead bait fishing and pellet fishing really quickly and easily. So a super long hair is really great for looping on those pellets in a secure way, and also attaching a dead bait to make sure you've got it nicely on the hook and it's not going to come off as it starts to soften up. If you're using stuff like lamprey, that goes a bit soft after a while. Like I say, small roach especially, as they are left in the water over a period of hours, start to go real soft. So having this long hair means you can just wrap it round, poke it through the other end of the bait so it's attached with the hook, and then also kind of almost tied on as well, like sea fishing style, and that seems to work really well. I don't have any dead baits coming off. I can leave them out for like overnight sessions, and in the morning when I come and reel in, if I haven't had a bite, everything's still attached and it's not started to kind of fall off. So that's the rig there. It's my very simple catfish pellet rig. Also used for dead baits if need be. Really versatile, really easy to tie, yeah, one that I have in my armoury and I fish very often. And unfortunately that was my only fish that I managed to land throughout the whole trip. It wasn't fishing well, the conditions were really changeable, the fish didn't seem to be switched on as they are quite often when we go down there. So we'll be back, we'll go have another go for them. We tend to go on a couple of those kind of trips every year, so I'm sure you'll see in the next video, hopefully we'll have a few big monster catfish for you. Thanks for watching guys, and see you next time.